Hi, my name is Suri Crow, and you are watching the MeidasTouch Network. I want you to lean in and listen to this important message from the very brilliant Rachel Maddow. It's chilling, but I believe everyone needs to hear this.
In the existing prison camps they've got, Trump is already holding more than 73,000 people right now, which is a record. They want to build 16 new processing facilities and 7 new huge warehouse facility camps. If they build those, if they can build those 23 new facilities that they've said they want to build in these communities that I've been describing all over the country, if they can build those 23 new facilities, that'll give them the space to more than double the number of people they're holding in the camps. The biggest one they've got right now holds about 3,000 people. That's the one at Fort Bliss, where 3 people have died in the past 8 weeks. Again, about 3,000 people are there now. There's already people regularly dying there. 3,000 people there now. They want their new prison camps to be closer to 10,000 people. How do you think those facilities are going to be run? If they build them, they will fill them up. And yes, maybe they will use them for immigration detention now, whatever that is, their prison camps. But if history tells us anything, it tells us that once facilities like this are built in these kinds of numbers, once you get an archipelago of facilities like this built in numbers like this, yeah, they may start as immigration detention, but they're available to them indefinitely for whatever they want to do with those camps. And so you see something that has been mostly flying under the radar of the national media, but may absolutely be key to our destiny as a nation. Everywhere they are trying to build these things, including in the reddest states in the country, everywhere people are pulling out all the stops to prevent these camps from being built. And I have to tell you, if the country stops them from building them, they will never again have this kind of momentum to try to build a constellation of prison camps this large outside the reach of the law. I mean, why would we give this government that kind of power, that kind of tool to use indefinitely?
Yes, why would we give them that kind of power? They've already consolidated so much. And who are they going to incarcerate? I will get to that in a minute. But as usual, this story is being overlooked by much of the legacy media. Conditions inside these detention camps, arguably and fairly called concentration camps, are drawing more attention after the nation learned about little Liam Conejo Ramos. ICE agents arrested his father and took 5-year-old Liam with him to the El Paso Dilley detention facility, where Liam became very ill within days of being there. ProPublica later published heartbreaking letters from children who had been detained, some of them for months. These kids guilty of nothing but being born to parents who were seeking a better life in America. Congressman Joaquin Castro helped secure Liam's release and says he remains haunted by what he witnessed there.
I think they were all traumatized, but some of them were stone-faced and some of them were sobbing. There's a 2-year-old girl who kept coming up to me and just hugging my leg. She was really small, asking us to get her out of there. A baby that's 2 months old living in that trailer prison, to me at the time when I went through there, was the most shocking.
I'm really struggling as a parent, trying to deal with this and be a journalist, and also know that I'm trying to protect the innocence of my children.
My kids are 12 and 10, and then we have a 3.5-year-old. I've just always told them that I'm trying to do good in the world. I think ICE should be disbanded. It has outlived any purpose as an immigration enforcement agency that does it right. It's stamped upon every immigrant this impression that, hey, you're probably a violent criminal. Yeah. You're probably dangerous to people here in the United States. You're probably out to hurt people. And that's how a big chunk of the country looks at a lot of these folks, even to the point of dehumanizing somebody so much that when you hear that a 2-month-old baby's in there, there's some Americans, because they've been fed all this stuff over the years, that are okay with that. But when the whole nation, most of the nation, speaks up and rejects this politics of bigotry and fear, I think it's harder. I think that's more powerful.
When 180,000 people are calling to say, get Liam out, right?
That's right. Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
I was deeply moved by that interview and by Nick Valencia's willingness to show emotion, because How can you not if you have a beating heart, given the inhumane conditions in these detention camps and these families who have been terrorized by the Trump regime? And, the Trump regime has continued deportation efforts against Liam's family, despite the fact that they are following legal immigration processes and always were from the beginning. That's what's happening with many of these immigrants, is that ICE agents are arresting them as they are checking in, following the processes for their green cards or to get through legal immigration. They're doing the right things. And yet this regime is going in and swooping them up. It's so frustrating. And even though Liam spent only a very short time in Dili, he returned home with PTSD, experiencing night terrors, fears of being separated from his father. I recently spoke with two pediatric specialists, Dr. Ashley Marie Coso and Dr. Lada Jones, about the trauma that these children are enduring when they are placed in these horrible camps.
And I think that you bringing up Liam and how short of a time he was in detention and how severe that has affected him in just a week and a half, you've already have these deeply concerning signs, right? For these children, it's a never ending car crash every day. That's what it feels like. From the experience of somebody who this happened decades to. And it gave me chills, and it gives me chills to talk about it now, because what a visceral description as to what we are subjecting children to as a choice, as a policy choice. And the data is unmistakable. We know what we're setting these families up for. So that will just be the beginning, really.
Right.
If what the care is going to look like in rehabilitation for these families is potentially generational.
Who was in front of me saying that this patient doesn't have a place to sleep. This patient is not getting adequate nutrition. This patient is losing weight. This patient is suffering from the psychological threat daily of guards threatening to separate them from their parents as disciplinary actions. They're not receiving reading materials. They're not going to school. If that was presented to me in the hospital, I would call CPS and I would not allow for that child to be returned to that environment, because I would consider that unsafe. And so there is no justification for the harm that we're inflicting, and the moral injury that it's causing, me and my other pediatric colleagues is severe, where it's like this. If this was my patient, this is what I would do. And I can't do that because I don't have the authority. But that's what any medical provider, mandatory reporter would be doing. They would be immediately removing the child from this environment.
I want to thank Dr. Coso and Dr. Jones for their expertise, and you can catch our entire conversation on my Substack. The harm that our government is inflicting on children is undeniable, as you just heard there. But I think it's important to point out that it's not only brown-skinned immigrants who are being victimized. It's also white Celtic people that Elon Musk was defending just the other day in this post, where he said, American culture, with its English, Scots, Irish origin, is great and worth fighting for. Firstly, that's not the origin of America. The indigenous peoples are. So he, as per usual, has his facts completely wrong. And, surprise, Elon, nobody is safe with this regime except billionaires such as yourself. Just ask Irish immigrant Seamus Culleton, who had been living and working in America for 20 years until he was arrested last September for overstaying his tourist visa.
The best way I could describe it is probably like a modern day concentration camp. It's a bunch of temporary tents. There's probably room for 1,000 detainees in each tent. I believe there's like 5 tents. I've been locked in the same room now for 4.5 months. I've had barely any outside time, no fresh air, no sunshine. I could probably count on both hands the amount of times I've been outside. So I'm just locked in this room all day, every day. We've got 2 TVs on the wall. We get 3 meals a day, very, very small meals, kid-sized meals. So everybody's hungry, everybody's tired. We've got no commissary. We've got no options to to get extra food or anything like that. And the conditions here are filthy. The toilets, the showers, completely nasty, very rarely cleaned. I'm in fear for my life down here, honestly, because people have been killed by the staff here, by the security staff.
DHS has been quietly gobbling up real estate that includes massive warehouses across the nation. And because the government knows that most of the population hates ICE, they are hiding their shady real estate moves. So independent outlets like Project Saltbox, so named after the yellow salt boxes that hold salt used to dissolve ice, have been tracking what the Trump government is up to.
Project Saltbox has been tracking the government's buying spree for its new archipelago of huge legal black site immigration prisons all over America. As I mentioned in the previous segment, you can see in plain language right there at the top. In red, warehouses bought by ICE, 7. In green, warehouses canceled by local opposition. In orange, the fight. Warehouses for sale, 11. Project Saltbox has all those sites and their status labeled on an interactive map. You can zoom in on any state, any part of the country, hover over any site to see the details. So for instance, you can zoom in on the great state of Georgia. If you hover over this one red dot, it tells you a warehouse in Social Circle, Georgia has been bought by ICE with plans to imprison 8,500 people there. That's more than twice the size of the largest federal prison in the United States today. If you move your cursor over to the yellow dot, that's a warehouse in Flowery Branch, Georgia. The Trump administration wants to lock up an additional 1,500 people there, but they haven't yet managed to buy that warehouse there. That one is still for lease. You can also zoom in on Virginia and hover over that green dot there, which will tell you that a warehouse sale in Ashland, Virginia, that sale was canceled when the owner decided not to sell to ICE. So much of the best work being done on this is being done by independent researchers and citizen journalists.
Speaking of that Ashland, Virginia ICE facility, I know people personally who went to the Board of Supervisors meeting. Even though the federal government can override local decisions, city council members or Board of Supervisors meetings, which this board did vote no, by the way, because that's what the people wanted, the public outcry made such a difference that the Canadian billionaire who owned that Ashland property ended up stopping the sale because the PR was so bad for him and his grocery chain business back in Canada. So we can make a difference when enough of us stand up and shut these deals down. And as Rachel Maddow said, we have to do it now before they have them in every area of the country. We have to shut it down now. There's a lot of super shady money being made here. Much of it, shocker, by Trump's own cabinet members like Howard Lutnick. That's another whole deep dive, but just FYI, he's one of the chief policy drivers of these detention concentration camps. And he and his family members, his son, are making a ton of money off of it. But this leads me to my next point. Adults and children are disappearing into this system. And given what has been revealed so far in the Epstein files, I cannot imagine why any Democrat in Congress would be defending ICE. And yet, here is House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries crashing out in an interview.
65% of people taken by ICE had no convictions. That's from the Cato Institute, a right-wing institute. ICE has killed 8 people this year alone that we know of. 2 of them, Renee Nicole Good and Alex Pretty. The latest polls came out this week, AP polls. Over 60% of Americans now disapprove of ICE. That means in 3 weeks, it's gone from 30% to 60%. Now, if I may, I'm going to be a bit blunt here. Leaders lead. And what we've seen is people are impressionable. If you lead on something, people will follow. It seems the wind is behind your back for the first time ever. ICE has a history. CPP has a history of terrorizing Black and brown communities. People are asking themselves, why are we, our taxpayer dollars, paying for masked, lawless men to terrorize our communities, kidnap people, take children, and kill Americans? So I ask you, and I'm doing a following up to Joy, because I want an answer to this. You said you want to rein in ICE. I'm talking about the long term now. Why not lead and say abolish ICE? Because what you're telling us is you want our taxpayer dollars to pay for a lawless masked armed agency to continue terrorizing our cities. And I'm trying to figure out how you, as a leader, can be telling Americans that their taxpayer dollars should be going to ICE.
I don't understand anything that you just said. I don't understand anything that you've just said to me when I've made clear that taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for the American people, not brutalize or kill them. That's the whole reason we're in this fight right now. That's the whole reason the DHS is getting ready to shut down. That's
so
the whole
abolish
reason
ICE.
why
You agree with me and Joy. Abolish ICE.
That is listen, I'm going to use the language that I want to use. You can use the language that you want to use.
I'm going to use the language I want to use, but I won't say abolish ICE. That was just wild. His reaction tells you everything you need to know. He refuses to abolish ICE. By the way, this is how every journalist should be questioning Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, and any Democrat who refuses to abolish ICE. I've seen so many softball interviews by indie outlets or people on the left. Maybe they're more creators than journalists, but I'm a journalist. So I'm going to ask the hard questions. And Wajahat and Joy Reid did a great job there. Snowball's chance in hell, Hakeem Jeffries is going to sit down with me because he doesn't want to have his feet held to the fire. But to my earlier point, I cannot imagine any reason why he and others in Congress would refuse to abolish ICE when that's clearly what the constituents, the vast majority of constituents want, except for one. That's the sound of money. If a member of Congress or any elected official refuses to disavow ICE, it's likely that they are compromised, making money off of human suffering. And that is inexcusable, in my opinion, that our elected members of Congress are choosing profit over people. I mean, but this is what happens when they get to Congress. Refusing to listen to what the people want, and the polls show it, the calls to Congress show it all over social media. Overwhelmingly, people say abolish ICE, abolish ICE. They hate it. They want it gone. And, Representative Ro Khanna can say it. Joaquin Castro can say it. AOC can say it. Rep. Delia Ramirez, she has no problem saying it. And in fact, put forward legislation called Melt ICE. Pramila Jayapal can say it. Our leaders need to be saying it, and more importantly, taking action to get rid of ICE as well. It has shown itself to be an agency that is corrupt to its core. We didn't have it before 2003. We don't need it now. And if they refuse to abolish ICE, to do the will of the people who put them in Congress, then they need to go. And that's why we have primaries and midterms. Okay. All right. That's all for today. Thank you for being here. Just stay engaged, keep calling, keep emailing, and join up and let our voices rise, because we have one chance to do this, y'all. And it's right now. I will see you back here soon. Don't forget to follow my socials below, especially my Substack. Namaste.
The truth is more important than ever. Check out our new Truth Over Lies collection at store.MeidasTouch.com. All 100% USA union made.